So this is a project that I've been involved in for probably about 6 years now. It's actually a collaborative project between myself, Sergeant Michel Fournier, who's the Forensic Facial Identification Officer for the Atlantic region, Mary Manheim, and Ginny Listy, who are professors at Louisiana State University. So, as a forensic anthropologist, and that's sort of what I do, and it's a great icebreaker when you're on a plane and someone asks you, what do you do? And you say forensic anthropology, and the response always is, so like CSI? And I say, yes, this is how I go to a scene, exactly like this, in my fabulous heels and my outfits, and white is always a great thing to wear at a scene, and I have a badge, and I have a gun, and I can arrest people, and all of that kind of stuff, and I have blue and yellow and green liquids that I mix together, and the crime is solved in 35 minutes, and that's exactly what my life is like. But unfortunately it's not, or fortunately it's not, because I really enjoy and I really love what I do. So as a forensic anthropologist, I work both at St. Mary's University, I'm a professor here, and I also consult for the Nova Scotia Medical Examiner Service. And whenever there are human remains, whenever there are bones found in the province of Nova Scotia, whether they are animal bones or human bones, because many people don't know the difference, they are brought down to Halifax, they're taken, shipped down to the medical examiner's office here, and then I'm given a call, and I come in and I say, yes, they're human, and if they're human, that becomes problematic because the police need to close off the scene, and if they're animal, it just means that someone was walking through the woods and saw Bambi, and because of CSI, everyone thinks Uncle Fred, they don't think Bambi, and it gets sent down to Halifax, and I get a chance to look at it and write a report. There are a lot of missing people in Nova Scotia. Nova Scotia actually happens to be the missing capital of North America. Per capita, and it's shocking and surprising, but it's true. And so there's a mandate in Nova Scotia that all bones that are found in the province, whether they are animal or human, whether people think they're animal or human, have to be sent down to the medical examiner's office, and they have to be analyzed. And so myself and my graduate students take a look at them, and we write a report for every single bone, even if it's a tiny little fragment that comes through, because these bones are found in areas where there may be a missing person, and then those family members want to know that this actually wasn't their loved one that they're trying to find, or was their loved one that they're trying to find, and we need to be able to identify these remains. So, as a forensic anthropologist, human remains are often sent down or I go up and recover them to wherever they may be. It's my job to identify who these people are. So that's basically what I do. I'm trying to figure out who this person is. I look at the skeletal remains, and I work with either skeletonized or decomposed human remains. So it's not always nice and clean as we see on this photograph. And I look at the bones, and I try to determine things like sex, whether the individual was male or female, their age at death, how old they were, their stature, how tall they were during life, and their biological affinity or their ancestry. And I put all that information together, along with analyzing the remains for any sort of trauma, were there gunshot wounds, were there knife markings on the bone, did they break their arm either before death or after death, was there any post-mortem damage on the bones. So I put that information sort of in this pile of information in my report, as well as were there any pathologies present. Did the person suffer from any diseases that may have remodeled their bone? There are certain diseases that remodel bone in a certain way, in a specific manner, so that we're able to tell if this person actually suffered from any kind of disease during life. And so all of that information goes into a report. I give that information to the police, to the RCMP, to the local police, and then they put that information into their many missing persons databanks. There isn't just one, just like on CSI, you don't just push a button. They put that information in, and then they hope to get a match from that information. If this individual, let's just say I've created a report for them, if this individual comes back that there's either no match in their missing persons databank, or it matches more than one person, then this individual becomes unidentified, because this skull can't belong to more than one person. It's only one individual. And so then I've created this report, and we still don't know who this individual is. So the next step is 3D facial reconstruction. And what happens is that Sergeant Michel Fournier gets involved. He comes and collects the skull. There's a mold made of the skull, and then a facial reconstruction is performed. You can see that there's these little pegs that are sticking out of the skull. Those little pegs actually represent what's called facial tissue depth. And if you think about your own face, the skin, the tissue on your cheeks is actually thicker than the tissue on your chin, which is thicker than the tissue on your forehead. We need to know how thick or how much clay to place on each individual sort of area of the face. And so, what's interesting is that those tissue depths actually vary. They vary between males and females. They vary between people of different ages. And they vary between people of different ancestries. There are no tissue depth data for Canadian Aboriginal peoples out there. So when human remains are found of a Canadian Aboriginal person and we're unable to identify who this individual is, and it gets to the step where we need to create a facial reconstruction, we actually have to use tissue depth data from other populations. And the most commonly used population is white European populations. The problem with that is that they're not white European. They're an Aboriginal person. And so we're using tissue depth markers, we're using tissue depth to represent something that these individuals aren't. And so you're creating a facial reconstruction that you're hoping you put it out into the public, you're hoping that family members or friends will recognize who this individual is, be able to identify them. The problem is that it's not as accurate as it could be. It's probably not looking like that individual did during life. And so what we've started is we've been working with Mi'kmaq communities here in Nova Scotia for probably about 7 or 8 years now. And we started the first project to collect tissue depth data, facial tissue depth data for Aboriginal populations. We use an ultrasound machine to do this. There's gel that's placed on the ultrasound machine. The ultrasound is placed at different points on the skull, different points on the person's face, sorry. It's the same kind of ultrasound machine that it's an OBGYN machine, and same thing that's used at hospitals for women who are pregnant. And these are the different points on the face that we take the measurements from. So there's 19 different points on the face. We place the ultrasound machine on the individual's face. They have to stay still during the few seconds that we're taking the measurement, and then during each measurement they can relax, and it takes about 5-10 minutes at the most to collect this data. I don't know how well that's showing up. That is what one of the images actually looks like. It's so we get an image on our ultrasound machine. There's calipers within the machine that actually will measure the distance between the tissue and the bone. So that white line on the top is actually the tissue, the face, your outer skin. The white line underneath is actually representing the bone at that specific point. You can see that there's a cross there. We've used the calipers to measure. And in the bottom right-hand corner, you can see it says distance, and that distance at that point is 6 millimeters. So we collect 19 different points like that from each individual person's face. This is our ultrasound machine that we use. This has been my research assistant for many, many years, and he's gone on to do other things now, but we've been working together for quite a while. He was a student here at St. Mary's, one of my undergraduate students, and became an honors student. So our ultrasound machine, it's just a regular kind of OBGYN ultrasound machine. What's really great about using ultrasound as opposed to any other methodology is that it's accurate, which is really helpful. It's safe, which is really useful. It's portable. We have a portable ultrasound machine. We go to the community. We go to where the individuals are so that they can volunteer when it's most appropriate or most convenient for them. We have started a project, or our project was started about 3 years ago now with the help of a granting organization, and we have been measuring taking measurements for children. We had 392 Aboriginal children that volunteered for our project. It would have been really hard to put 392 children on a bus and bring them all down to Halifax and have a machine at the hospital to collect the measurements. So we have a portable ultrasound machine. We go up to them and we do it when it's most convenient for them. What's also really great is that it's non-invasive. In the past, facial tissue depth measurements were collected on cadavers. They would use either a pin or a knife, and they would place that inside of on the face. They would put it into the cadaver's face. When it would hit bone, they would pull it out, and they would take the measurement of how deep that tissue was. Living people don't like it when we stick pins and knives in their faces. Don't want to volunteer, really, when we talk about, we're going to stick pins in your face at 19 different points. We hope you're okay with that. And guess what? You're going to get a thank you afterwards. And so the ultrasound machine became a better option for us to be using this. So the goals of our research project were to collect facial tissue depth measurements for Aboriginal populations, both for males, or pardon me, for adults and for children. We've been working with Mi'kmaq communities in Nova Scotia now for quite a while. We had a development project in the beginning before we even started taking the measurements, so that we were able to develop the project so that it was appropriate for working with Aboriginal communities and in Aboriginal communities, so that people felt secure about the project, so that it was developed by people in the community. I had this expertise. I knew how to work this ultrasound machine. I understand forensic anthropology. I know how to identify human remains, but I'm not from an Aboriginal community. And so to work with the community was a really important part of the project. We didn't just kind of go in there with our ultrasound machine one day in hand and say, hey, we're here, you know, someone can volunteer now. We had to work with them for about 3 years to develop it so that everybody was really secure about what we were doing and that we were actually working with them. We hired students from within the community to help us get the word out about the project and to encourage people to volunteer for the project. And so our hope in this is that we're able to bring closure to families. If you can think about a family member who has lost somebody, who has a parent or a child that's missing. There are thousands of missing Aboriginal children in this country. There are over 500 Aboriginal women that are missing. And for us to be able to say to a family, we have the remains of your child. Unfortunately, when I come into the picture, the individual has passed. But for us to be able to say we've identified this individual, we've been able to give that person the dignity that every human body deserves, and that's the dignity of having a name. We're able to give them their name, and we're able to give them back to their family so that their family is able to bury them, their family is able to grieve the loss, their family is able to go on and to have closure. That's a really important part of what we do. So we're really fortunate to be working with this community. We're really fortunate to have this project, and we think it's a really, really valuable project. And these are all the wonderful, I have to put this up, all the wonderful granting organizations that have helped us through this project. And we'd really like to thank the Mi'kmaq community in Nova Scotia for participating and for allowing us into their home and into their lives, and for helping create this project. Thank you.